Welcome back everyone, this is Patrick from Studio 300, and this is part 3 of the electronic music production series. In this video we're going to be adding our main melody to our song that we've been composing. We're also going to add some other audio and MIDI-based loops to fill out our song and get it ready for the final mixdown. Let's get started. Go ahead and move the playhead to the beginning of the first verse. We're going to look through the loops to find a good melody line that we like, where we don't have to do much to change it. For my melody, I'm going to use a synth. Open the loop browser, then filter only the synths and find the Lost in Ibiza synth lead number 1. Go ahead and click on it once to see what it sounds like. That's a pretty good lead part. Click and drag it over to the accelerating gate bass track. Then loop it once to fill the entire verse. Give it a listen and then go ahead and copy it to the second verse. Now let's add a lead melody line to the pre-chorus. Scroll down the synth list until you find the machine-gated synth. Go ahead and drag that over to its own new track. We'll loop that for our pre-chorus here. Give it a listen and then go ahead and copy that one to the second pre-chorus. Moving on to the chorus, find the Fantasy Synth 3. Click and drag it to its own track at the beginning of the chorus. Turn its volume down until it balances with the rest of the mix. Let's add a little distortion to this track and also try to widen it up a little. In order to get it wide, we're going to use a dual mono track instead of a stereo. This allows us to treat the left channel different from the right channel. On the left, we'll do a BIDI with a little bit more pre-gain and a full drive. For the right channel, we'll even go heavier on the gain. We'll change the tone a little bit, and we'll change the type to a growl. Here it is with the distortion. And without. And here it is in the mix with the distortion. And without. Now you'll notice that adding that distortion also allowed us to turn it down even more because the distortion helps it cut through the rest of the mix. Go ahead and copy the Fantasy Synth part to the next chorus. Copy it to the third chorus as well, and then loop it through the next chorus. I think we're even going to use it for the outro, so go ahead and loop it one more time. For the bridge, we'll use something called the Gentle Waves synth lead. I like this one when I listen to it. Go ahead and drag the Gentle Waves synth lead to the same track as the Fantasy Synth. I think I'm going to have it repeat into the pre-chorus, and I'm also going to have just part of it come in right beforehand. So I'm going to copy it twice here, and then the second one I'm going to edit. I'm actually going to trim it down even more. So we're going to trim it all the way to there. And we're going to trim it all the way up to that note. Let's play it back and make sure the timing is good. We're going to copy Gentle Waves one more time, halfway through the pre-chorus at the 61st measure. And then we're going to create a little call and response part here. Search through the synths and find the level up chord, number 1. Go ahead and move this onto its own track, and then we'll worry about lining it up so that the chords are in the right spot. We're going to have it start a quarter of the way through the 58th measure, right about here. Let's listen to that. Perfect. We'll go ahead and loop it only halfway through that first part before any of those other notes. We'll add a little distortion to this as well. Again, we're going to use distortion 2, and we're going to use a dual mono again to get these chords a little wider. For the left, we're going to add just a little bit of gain, leave the tone, and drive where it is. We'll change it back to MIDI. And for the right channel, we're going to add a little more gain, change the tone again, kind of where we did on the Fantasy synth, and change it to the growl. And now we'll adjust the volume of this. Let's go ahead and zoom out here and take a look at our entire song. It looks like the melody is running through the entire song. Now we're going to add some other fills and parts to help fill out the whole mix. These parts should add variety throughout the song as well, so that no two parts sound exactly the same. To start, let's add another part to the verse that makes the second half of the verse a little more interesting than the first. Find the Lost in Ibiza synth lead number 2 and drag it to our Fantasy synth track. Listen to how this changes the dynamic of the verse. Go ahead and copy this on the same track to the second verse. Next, we want the second pre-chorus to have a little more going on than the first. Turn the synth filter off and turn on the electric piano. Then find the Star Power Low Electric. Give it its own track and put it at the beginning of the pre-chorus. Like many of our other tracks, we need to change the sound a little. Go ahead and add the Distortion 1 plugin. We'll do dual mono because, again, we want to widen the sound a little bit. For the first side, we're going to do about 17 gain. That's on the left side of the track. And we're going to drop the output to help balance it right away. We're also going to change the tone to about 490. For the right side, we're going to leave the tone at 980. And we're going to drive not quite as much. We're still going to drop the output, about the same. Here it is, soloed with the distortion. And without. Now we'll balance it in the mix. You'll notice that the second chorus is already set up different from the first. The first had those extra bass notes in it on the Lost in Ibiza chord layers. We left those out of the second chorus, and it makes this chorus sound open and wide. Here's the pre-chorus going into the second chorus. Compare that to the first chorus, which has the extra bass on it. I've decided I need a little more dissonance on my second pre-chorus. Stay in the electric pianos and look for the infinite love piano chords. Drag them onto their own track. First, let's try looping this and see what this sounds like, using it exactly lined up with the pre-chorus. You'll notice the chords on the new piano line up with the old one pretty well, and this can happen a lot when you use the basic loops. What if instead of lining it up as I did, I offset it by a bar? Let's remove the second loop and move this to the center of the pre-chorus. I'm getting a little dissonance here, and it kind of makes it a little more interesting. I'm going to copy this to still go the whole length of the pre-chorus. I'm going to remove the second half here, and I'm going to copy it again and remove the first half here. Let's listen to it one more time. I like the way they kind of fight each other a little bit with the dissonance there, versus working together. Let's add one more part to our bridge, kind of an offset beat underneath everything. Go back to the synths and find the Distant Memories synth pluck. Drag and drop it on its own track at the beginning of the bridge. Go ahead and loop it a couple times into the pre-chorus. Adjust the volume so that it fits in the mix. Great. That's most of our song. Now we just need to add the final touches to these last two choruses. For the first, I could really use some sort of ambient vocal. So let's go to the vocals, and we're probably going to want to search by key, since most of the vocals are going to be audio-based loops. Find G major, and then look for Angelic Vocal FX number 1. We're going to probably use mostly the second half of it. Drag it onto its own track, and then zoom in to line it up. Line up the end with the 68th measure. Then trim the front off so that it starts halfway into the 64th measure. Now we're going to add a little bit of spread and echo to really get it back in the mix. Open the audio effects plugins, and under imaging, open the stereo spread. Change the upper integer to 16%. This will widen this vocal a little bit. Now we're going to take it further back in the mix by adding an echo delay. Go down to delay, select echo, and in this case we're going to use a stereo echo. Adjust the settings to taste until you get a delay that sits well with the rest of the song. For me, I like my feedback around 28% with a half triplet based delay. I also lowered my wet mix down to about 44% and left the dry at 96. Adjust the volume to get the track blended with the rest of the mix. The last thing we want to do is actually add a bit of a tail to this, since there isn't one on the loop. Bring another copy of the loop onto the same track. Trim the front end off a little bit, and then cut off the rest before another note ends. Move this tail to the end of the first loop. That's going to do it for our third chorus. Now we want the fourth chorus to really stand out. We've already got a little bit more going on here with these Lost in Ibiza chord layers, but let's bring back that machine gated synth as well. Go ahead and copy it over. And so now our third and fourth choruses sound like this. Alright, we've now got our melody for our song built up, as well as additional parts added to help fill out the mix. Join us in the next video to add the final touches to the song. See you then.